Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Great America Show. It's great to have you with us on this beautiful day in America. Thank you so much for spending part of your evening with us. Happy Monday. The investigation into the assassin of Charlie Kirk continues as Deputy Director Dan Bongino and Director Kash Patel continue to let out information and documents about what was the motive of this killer. Dan Bongino, Deputy Director, was on Fox News early this morning, laying out some of the new facts in this fact-finding mission that they are now embarked upon.
There appear to have been multiple warning signs. You just laid out some of them. There were people in his network, friends and family, who had stated that he had become more political, that he had become, at some parts, I believe some of his coworkers had stated that he had kind of detached himself when the topic of politics came up and walked away from them. Family members said he'd become more political, leading us to believe that this ideology had infected him and had taken over. And he was just intent, it appears, from the data we've accumulated and the channel and that note, which we have some evidence may have existed before based on the communications in that channel, that his target was obviously going to be Charlie and that people knew in advance. The question is, again, I just want to go back to what you had asked before. Did they know? Were they sure of this? Or did they hear this and just write it off? That's what we're going to have to find out. And that's what we're investigating now. Bill, this investigation is just begun. This isn't even the beginning of the beginning. You know, yes, we have a subject in custody. You know, everybody's innocent until proven guilty in our constitutional republic. However, this is not done by any stretch. Our men and women out there in the Bureau have worked tirelessly all weekend. I just got back to D.C. Last night. And, Kash and I were out there on the scene. We walked the scene. We went through every single component of it. We saw the evidence up close and personal. And we went out there to be able to make command decisions with our team on the ground. And I think the process, although not perfect, of course, I think the process went pretty well, considering we got him in 33 hours.
Okay, yeah. And just moments later, Kash Patel had his own Fox News interview in which he laid out some of the group chats and how many people may have been privy to the fact that he was getting ready to assassinate Charlie months before he actually did it. Take a listen.
Going back to the group chats real quick, there's more than 20 individuals, but this is a great point. I want to lay out how this works. People think we can just get in these group chats and immediately find out who's in them. We, the FBI, are the investigatory body supporting multiple prosecutions and ongoing investigations. And that's another point. Our investigation at the FBI is ongoing. And there are scores of people in this Discord chat room. But we have to effectuate legal process. We have to go out there with search warrants so that if prosecutors want to later use this evidence, it's not tainted by being illegally obtained. We, the FBI, are running the investigation pointedly on the Discord chat group. There are scores of individuals that are going to be spoken to. There are also lots of family members and friends that have already been spoken to. And one more point on forensics. We were able to obtain in record time the text message chain between the suspect and his live-in partner, as well as other critical cellular information from our CAS team that analyzes cell phone data towers in the area to pinpoint the locations of the suspect and other individuals he was speaking with. This is critical information that the FBI processed and got to prosecutors so they can lawfully use it in a court of law. And our investigation, our interviews continue, but we've learned some shocking things when we spoke to his family and friends as well.
And earlier today, Vice President J.D. Vance hosted Charlie's show, the Charlie Kirk Show. We want to bring you a little clip of that because J.D. Vance had some just absolutely valiant and salient points about how this ends. When does this end? How do Americans stop this from happening? What is to be done when you can't make peace with these Marxist Democrats who want death upon anyone who disagrees? Not all of them, but the ones who are out here portraying this hate that has led this psychopath to assassinate an innocent man. Take a listen.
I really do believe that we can come together in this country. I believe we must. But unity, real unity, can be found only after climbing the mountain of truth. And there are difficult truths we must confront in our country. One truth is that 24% of self-described, quote, very liberals believe it is acceptable to be happy about the death of a political opponent, while only 3% of self-described very conservatives agree. 3% is too many, of course. Another truth is that 26% of young liberals believe political violence is sometimes justified, and only 7% of young conservatives say the same. Again, too high a number. In a country of 330 million people, you can, of course, find one person of a given political persuasion justifying this or that or almost anything. But the data is clear. People on the left are much likelier to defend and celebrate political violence. This is not a both sides problem. If both sides have a problem, one side has a much bigger and malignant problem, and that is the truth we must be told. That problem has terrible consequences. The leader of our party, Donald J. Trump, escaped an assassin's bullet by less than an inch. Our House Majority Leader, Stephen Scalise, came within seconds of death by an assassin himself. And now, the most influential conservative activist in generations, our friend Charlie, has been murdered. This violence, it doesn't come from nowhere. Now, any political movement, violent or not violent, is a collection of forces. It's like a pyramid that stacks on top, one support on top of the other. That pyramid's got a foundation of donors, of activists, of journalists, now of social media influencers, and of course of politicians. Not every member of that pyramid would commit a murder. In fact, over 99%, I'm sure, would not. But by celebrating that murder, apologizing for it, and emphasizing not Charlie's innocence, but the fact that he said things some didn't like, even to the point of lying about what he actually said, many of these people are creating an environment where things like this are inevitably going to happen. A couple of months ago, I headlined a fundraiser in Southern California, and since, we'd be out there anyways, my wife and I decided to take our kids to Disneyland one weekend. We had fun, and to be clear, most of the guests said very nice things, or they just left us alone. But there was a loud and very vocal minority that would shout at my children, who were 8, 5, and 3, whenever they got the opportunity. "You should disown your dad, you little shit," one middle-aged woman yelled at my 5-year-old. "Tell the Secret Service to protect the Constitution, not your father," screamed another. Are these women violent? Probably not. Are they deranged? Certainly. And while our side of the aisle certainly has its crazies, it is a statistical fact that most of the lunatics in American politics today are proud members of the far left. After Charlie died, one of his friends and one of our senior White House staffers had left-leaning operatives in his neighborhood passing out leaflets telling people what he looked like and where he lived, encouraging neighbors to harass him or, God forbid, to do worse. While he was mourning his dead friend, he and his wife had to worry about the political terrorists drawing a big target on the home he shares with his young children. Are these people violent? I hope not. But are they guilty of encouraging violence? You damn well better believe it. We can thank God that most Democrats don't share these attitudes, and I do, while acknowledging that something has gone very wrong with a lunatic fringe, a minority, but a growing and powerful minority on the far left. There is no unity with people who scream at children over their parents' politics. There is no unity with someone who lies about what Charlie Kirk said in order to excuse his murder. There is no unity with someone who harasses an innocent family the day after the father of that family lost a dear friend. There is no unity with the people who celebrate Charlie Kirk's assassination. And there is no unity with the people who fund these articles, who pay the salaries of these terrorist sympathizers, who argue that Charlie Kirk, a loving husband and father, deserved a shot to the neck because he spoke words with which they disagree.
That's one of the best speeches I've ever heard, or comments ever heard from J.D. Vance. Absolute, true gentleman-like fashion. New shakeup possibly happening over at the FBI, folks, and we're here to tell you all about it. Andrew Bailey, who's the former Missouri Attorney General, starting today as co-deputy director with Dan Bongino over at the FBI. Fox News has a new article out today. Knives are out for embattled FBI Director Kash Patel, despite support from Donald J. Trump. They say Bailey's installment comes at a perilous time for FBI Director Kash Patel, whose leadership topped the nation's premier law enforcement agencies under fire, according to 10 sources from multiple federal offices granted anonymity to speak freely. The White House reasoning to create these unprecedented office for Bailey has not been explained, and the FBI leadership is confused, two people at the agency say. Quote, the White House, Bondi, Blanche have no confidence in Kash. Pam in particular cannot stand him, Blanche either. He said, referring to Attorney General Pam Bondi and Deputy Todd Blanche. Bondi and Blanche denied this characterization, and White House officials denied any plans to remove Director Patel from his positioning. But allies of President Trump and Patel's harshest critics have begun to circulate word that contingency plans for Patel's ouster are forming. They also claim that this hopeful predecessor, Andrew Bailey, made clear he would not leave his post as Missouri AG or abandon his aspirations to run for state governor, only to serve as Patel's number two. Under the Federal Vacancies Reform Act of 1998, Bailey, who started at the Bureau on September 15th, which happens to be today, would be eligible to fill the FBI director post should it become vacant after he's been employed by the FBI for at least 90 days, or as those who are good at math, 3 months. So it's unclear how this will all play out, and if Bailey does wind up taking over as FBI director, we're unsure. We're not privy to any sort of inside knowledge to it, but that's what's being reported today as Andrew Bailey starts his new job as a deputy director of the FBI, coinciding with Dan Bongino. We'll keep you up to date, as always, here on the Great America Show, should we find out any sort of inside information. President Trump and his war on the drug lords who mean to destroy America, getting some bad news today. If you're joining us here on video, you've got that video up there on your screen. The latest drug lords who thought they were going to deliver drugs to America, I guess they learned the hard way that it's not going to happen. As you see there, yet another vessel absolutely annihilated, as they should be, as they absolutely should be. President Trump posting this following video on Truth Social with the message, quote, this morning at my orders, U.S. military forces conducted a second kinetic strike against positively identified and extraordinary violent drug trafficking cartels and narco-terrorists in the Southcom area of my responsibility. The strike occurred while these confirmed narco-terrorists from Venezuela, imagine that, folks, from Venezuela once again. These narco-terrorists from Venezuela were in international waters transporting illegal narcotics headed to the United States. These extremely deadly, violent terrorist cartels pose a threat to the U.S. national security, foreign policy, and are vital U.S. interests. The strike resulted in 3 male terrorists killed in action. No U.S. forces were harmed in the strike. Be warned. If you're transporting drugs that can kill Americans, we are hunting you. These illicit activities by these cartels have wrought devastating consequences on American communities for decades, killing millions and millions of American terrorists. No longer. And as always, thank you for your attention to this matter. Let's watch that one more time because that's truly amazing. Absolutely amazing to watch. Here it comes. Oh, boy. See you later. Oh, boy. That's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Folks, we're going to take a quick break here. On the other side of this quick break, we're going to be joined by a friend of mine, former supervisory special agent with the FBI, James Gagliano. You probably see him on TV. He doesn't get enough time on television, so we brought him on the Great America Show to talk about everything that's going on, this new shakeup potentially happening in the FBI, the Charlie Kirk investigation, and much, much more, folks. The Great America Show continues in just one moment. Please stay with us. We're coming right back.
I'm excited to announce that we're having a huge sale on overstock and brand new products. For example, My Pillow Percale bed sheets, every color, every style, every size, only $29.88. Our Percale bed sheets are breathable, cool and crisp, and they're perfect for spring and summer. And check out Rev 7, the next generation of energy drinks. It tastes great, and it gives you energy all day with no jitters and no crashes. Best of all, it's actually good for you. And for a limited time, try our 3-pack absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% on our Rev 7 12-packs, or try our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. And our Percale bed sheets, all sizes, only $29.88. Twin size, full size, queen size, king sizes, all $29.88. Inventory is extremely limited at this price, so order now.
Thanks for staying with us, folks. And now, as promised, a man who you probably see on TV if you've been watching TV the last week or so, who I think deserves a lot more time, which is why he's on this podcast. A former supervisory special agent with the FBI, James Gagliano, a good friend of mine, a terrific gentleman. James, thanks so much for joining us today.
John, good to see you again, and happy to join you. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
It's always a good one. So let's keep the train rolling. Let's begin with, I guess, first what happened last week. Now the details are starting to come out, James, that this shooter who assassinated Charlie Kirk cased the campus. He was on all these online forums, which I did a show last week for an hour, James, laying out these online forums and how I believe kids are getting more radicalized now with things like Reddit, this Discord conversation. Your take on everything?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we've long sensed that university campuses are essentially they're like petri dishes for a certain ideological bent, and there's a problem with that when you have 90+% of college and university professors all hew to the same ideological bent. It's difficult to fathom how rankled they can get when somebody like Charlie Kirk, who was an interlocutor, he's a guy that just wanted to meet you in the public square, roll his sleeves up, not for fisticuffs, but to debate you, and to see this happen. Look, this is a disturbing trend, and I'll rattle off some statistics for you. First of all, some of the recent polling put out, it shows that progressives, the majority of progressives believe that political violence is okay. It's staggering. And it's worse when you get to the younger ages, when you move through the millennials and down to Gen Z. And look what's happened in the last 1 year plus. July 13th, 2024, then candidate President Trump was out on the campaign trail in Butler, Pennsylvania, and nearly lost his life. December 4th, 2024, Luigi Mangione guns down the United Healthcare CEO in the back in New York City. Mm-hmm. Just a few weeks ago, August 27th of this year, in a Minneapolis Roman Catholic church, 2 young children were killed while attending Mass. And then, of course, what happened to Charlie Kirk last week, which was by definition a political assassination. This is all too often. And yes, it is younger. The 4 incidents I just ticked off the top of my head all involved Gen Z shooters, young males that decided that the way to settle our differences was to take someone's life. And I'll wrap it up with this. We're entering an inflection point right now in a new paradigm. And what that paradigm is the assassination culture. And what is that, John? Assassination culture is where somebody takes a grievance or grievances, because these are all grievance collectors, whether it's a terrorist, whether it's a political assassin, or whether it's a mass shooter. You take a grievance, you add to it an ideology where you believe that your ideology is superior to mine, and then you covered it in a patina of moral absolutism where you believe that taking someone's life is okay for the cause. Yeah. And that's what this is, John. This is assassination culture.
The Petri dish reference, I think it probably puts it best. We've seen the best and worst come out over people over this last week since this has happened. It's not even been a week. just under a week since this has happened. You've seen college professors, university professors. You've seen people on television out here justifying that an assassination is somehow justifiable because they don't agree with the ideology that Charlie Kirk portrayed. How has it come to this point, James, in this country where this is the way that you handle political differences? Charlie, as you said, was out there giving people a voice who, quite honestly, I would never platform these psychopaths. I mean, a lot of them are sick people, as we see. But platforming people who don't deserve to have a platform, allowing them to have a voice. Now, they didn't always win the debate because most of the time their ideology was extremely radical. But this is a man who gave so much to people who deserved so little, yet this is how they give back to him. I mean, should we all be worried?
Yeah, I mean, look, John, we're as a country in 250 years, I mean, we're no stranger to political violence. I mean, 4 sitting presidents were killed in office. And even if you fast forward to current times, whether it's Gabby Gifford being shot or Steve Scalise being shot or attempts on the lives of Justice Kavanaugh and others, I mean, I hate to, it sounds so trite and cliched. I hate to suggest, new normal, but these are elected officials, whether it's the president, vice president, a presidential candidate, a member of Congress, a Supreme Court justice, or a cabinet secretary. These are people that typically have security details. And not that you expect it, but you have to anticipate that somebody may want to take their life. To your point, Charlie's sin was basically preaching conservatism and Christianity and just saying, hey, prove me wrong. I'm going to explain to you why I think my ideas are right. And you tell me what your ideas are and let's discuss it. It has had a chilling effect. Now, having said that, I have a feeling that the exact opposite of what the assassin and his little clique of fanboys and fangirls, it's going to have a different effect. You can see it with Turning Point USA right now. They are breaking all kinds of records for membership. Different chapters are opening up on college campuses and in high schools. And that is only a dream that Charlie could have had, that he would have had this kind of impact and effect in death, even more so than he did in life.
When something happens, when a gun is involved, the Democrats always use it as gun control, right? This is time to take the guns away, point the fingers at the guns, and people need to lose their guns. Truth of the matter is, as a man who spent his career in law enforcement, the bad guys always find a way to get a gun. I reference Shinzo Abe in Japan getting killed by a ghost gun. I mean, where there's a will, there's a way. There's that's never been disproven before. So the bad guys are always going to get the guns. The Democrats pointed the guns. That's who's accountable in their sense for killings. But when you look at this, James, who is to take accountability for this? In my opinion, it's the media. It's the people who have pushed this narrative for 10 years that Donald Trump is Adolf Hitler, that anyone who supports Donald Trump is a racist, a misogynist. Go down the list of adjectives that you want to raffle off that these people have called us who support Donald Trump. And I'm talking about myself. I don't even know if you support Donald Trump, but just looking at it on his face, which doesn't matter. But the names, the divisiveness that they have pointed, that they brought out. You had a former FBI director who I guess you worked under at your time there just a few months ago, posting a picture of 8647. He says, as a career law enforcement man, he didn't know what it meant. I think everybody in law enforcement know what 86 means.
Yeah, you're referencing former FBI director, disgraced former FBI director James Comey there, when he was apparently strolling along the beach with his wife and saw the assembled shells in 8647 and thought it would be cute to post it on Instagram. If that's not example number 1 million of why he was unfit to serve as an FBI director, John, I don't know what is. Your points are all well taken. Heck, if I told you right now, John, I could put you on a time transport, bring you back in time to when Hitler was alive and you had an opportunity to kill him, would you do that? And we'd all think, man, we could have saved 6 million lives by doing that. that is where we're putting these young, and again with these, and I don't want to beat up on Gen Z, but these young impressionable minds where they're mass shooters, terrorists, political assassins, they're impressionable, they're young, they're typically disenfranchised, disconnected, and this is their way of doing something that's important. You keep beating the drum that somebody is Hitler or that his followers are Nazis or fascists. Sooner or later, somebody unhinged is going to take action. And my last point, going back to the guns, we're a nation of 327 million people. There are more guns in the country than there are people. The guns aren't the issue here. In all those shootings that I referenced, or most of them, these were legally obtained guns that unfortunately fell into the hands of somebody that shouldn't have, whether it was a family member that owned the gun or the person bought it legally. So I don't know what laws that aren't already on the books you could put in place. You're certainly not going to go around and collect up everybody's guns. That's simply not going to happen. So to continue to bash, the gun culture, I don't think that's what it is. I think that's an intellectually dishonest argument, but I'm sure we're going to continue to hear more of it.
Yeah, of course, because you know why, James? What happens is a shooting like this happens. A Democrat sends out an email to everybody on their email list and says, donate, we're fighting against guns. And I mean, it's the same playbook every single time. I mean, in this case, we're finding out more details about this guy, Tyler Robinson, lived with it's being reported that he's living with a transgender lover, was on all these online forums, which I want to ask you because it seems to be, and like I said, in my opinion, this is where kids are getting more radicalized. When you were working in the FBI as a supervisory special agent, were these forums like Reddit, we'll use, for example, around? Were they moderated by the FBI? Were they looked into by the FBI? Because it seems now they're overwhelmingly being used to bounce ideas off each other about killing people or whatever.
Well, you got to remember, I'm a dinosaur. So I came in 1991 after serving in the U.S. Army, and I cut my teeth under guys that had come in under J. Edgar Hoover. Now, the FBI has been around for 117 years. There have only been 9 Senate-confirmed FBI directors, and the first one, J. Edgar Hoover, served for 48 years from 1924 until he died in 1972 under 8 presidents, Calvin Coolidge all the way to Richard Nixon. So much of the bureau culture when I came in was still predicated on his thinking. Now, obviously, we all recognize that technology and police sciences have advanced greatly, especially in the last 10 to 20 years. So to your point about the cyber aspect of this, absolutely, it's something that is a concern. Now, just because somebody says something doesn't necessarily mean they're going to act on it. You have to try to weigh in on these things. And was this something said in the heat of the moment? Was it hyperbole? Was it satire? Or is this individual going to act on it? And then lastly, we've got that pesky little thing. 2 things. One, we've got that pesky little thing called the Fourth Amendment, which protects us from illegal searches and seizures and guarantees you some type of privacy. And when you look at it from this perspective too, there are, as I said, 327 million people in the United States. There's only 12,000 FBI agents. And the internet is vast and deep and dark, and it's impossible to monitor everything. That's why, John, I'll make this last pitch. See something, say something is not just a cute, trite, saying. If you see something or hear something, you've got to reach out to law enforcement, because oftentimes people will actually give you their plans and it's out there and we don't find out about it until the action has already happened.
Yeah, like we just saw, this guy reached out, I guess, after the fact, even though now it's apparent he was telling his transgender lover and other people on these databases that he was going to do it. People posted about it on Twitter and things like that. It's so just beyond disturbing that we've hit this new low point in this country where, we're resorting to violence like this. It's so sick. Before we move on, how do we pull ourselves out of this? How do we get out of this? Weekly school shooter thing, this weekly transgender mass rage, this weekly, it seems every week it's something else. by these kids who people come out after and say, oh, we totally knew he was going to do that.
Yeah, I think part of it is you have to look at it from the perspective of security. Remember, bad guys, whether it's a terrorist or a mass shooter or a political assassin or a petty thief, bad guys, they're like water. They take the path of least resistance. Deterrence is a thing. You know, we have security at banks. We have security at Yankee Stadium. Why don't we have security or enough security at schools in our country where our most precious resources, our kids, the next generation? Why aren't we doing a better job there of making sure that we have armed personnel there? And I know, and I hate to use the word optics, it's an ugly word, but I know the optics are that we don't want to, have our kids, have to see an armed guard. Well, what would you rather have, that, or would you have somebody come in and have a clear path to hurting our children? So I think that's the biggest thing. We've got to readjust our sense of what the right thing to do is to harden targets.
Yeah, you're right. I'll tell you why we can't do that, James, because we can't afford it. We're too busy sending money to every other foreign nation on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean and I guess the Pacific Ocean as well. That's why it costs too much money. We'd rather have our kids not be safe in school to put one armed guard. If one armed guard saves one life, James, that's enough. That justifies it enough for me.
I hear every day about the products you all wish MyPillow carried. Well, guess what? We probably do. Slippers, bathrobes, pet beds, blankets, mattresses, sleepwear, loungewear, duvets, comforters, pot holders, aprons, oven mitts, and so much more. And they're all on sale. For example, get our best-selling standard MyPillows for only $14.98. Body pillows, $29.98. 6-piece bath towels or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase, $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bedsheet sets. Any size, any color, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And I've never done this before. When you spend $100 or more, you're going to get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
Let me get your take on this, and this is my opinion of what happened. The shooting happens. We know nothing. Kash Patel tweets out later that night, we've got a guy in custody. Turns out it's not him. We got another guy in custody. Turns out it's not him. We start getting information leaking slowly out there. Okay, we start getting surveillance tapes. The surveillance tapes were taken from the school and other people's doorbells. So we have citizen FBI agents, we'll call them, people who are good Samaritans who are providing help to these people. 16 hours in, 17 hours in, we have these press conferences, still no lead on this guy. There's a gun that's found in the bushes. The family members start to reach out. The boyfriend of this fellow reaches out. The father finds out that it's his son. Everything that was done for this was, to my opinion, no help of the FBI. Everything that was done here was provided by family members and by good Samaritans. Do you think the FBI, tell me if I'm wrong, has maybe lost its touch a little bit with investigative work, getting things down to the core? Because as I said, everything in my opinion here seems like it was done by what I'm calling citizen FBI and police officers.
Yeah, I've agreed with 100% of everything you said up to this point, where I would push back on this. FBI's made some mistakes, and obviously the FBI is in need of reform. I think that the current leadership is doing some of that in a manner that myself and many like me, retired agents that spent quarter century in the Bureau, like to see. But there's much that still needs to be done. To your point about this particular investigation, I disagree. Police sciences, as I said before, has evolved greatly. From when we first began lifting latent fingerprints in the 30s and comparing them and tying somebody to an item like the murder weapon, all the way up to the mid 80s when we began to use DNA technology and we were first able to convict somebody on DNA evidence alone. Investigations have changed. Everything today is so laden with technology. There's a big portion of that. There were 3,000 people in attendance at Charlie Kirk's last campus visit at Utah Valley University, where he tragically lost his life.
Yeah.
The vast majority of them were filming it. So you imagine all of the videos, the stills and the images and the video that needed to be collected. Then you have, as you pointed out, traffic cam footage. You have security camera footage. You have Ring doorbell footage. You tie that in now, all that technology with old school shoe leather of knocking on doors, wearing out the soles of your loafers by walking and talking and taking witness statements. A lot of work. John, look at it like this, and trust me, I've been harshly critical of the FBI, and I know you and I have had conversations where I had been harshly critical of them.
Mm-hmm.
They brought this guy in 33 hours, and without the released images, which they had to collect. When I say the FBI, I'm also speaking law enforcement at large, because the state and local folks were hand in glove partners on this. But I think it was a veritable miracle that it was done so quickly. I knew they'd catch him. If this guy had been a professional assassin, like people originally erroneously stated, he would have jumped off the building where his sniper perch was. He would have walked over to a car in the parking lot, pulled out onto the main drag, and gotten onto I-15, a major artery, a major roadway, major thoroughfare, and been hundreds of miles away before anybody would have had any idea he was a shooter. But he didn't. He, just because, like I say, there are no perfect crimes, he stumbled around the parking lot, then he stumbled around the contiguous neighborhoods, and ultimately the information that was put out by the FBI led to the father recognizing him. And I'll just close with this. Imagine the pain in that father's life. You know, this takes me back to the 70s and the 80s when Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, was sending, pipe bombs and package bombs to academics and scientists that he was disagreed with. He wrote a manifesto which was published in the Washington Post and the New York Times. Mm-hmm. And in 1996, his brother recognized the ramblings and the musings of a madman and turned him in. Same instance here. But no, I would just close by saying I think the FBI did good work. I can certainly give you some things I wish they had done differently, one of which was the FBI director making a colossal mistake in coming out immediately and saying, we have a suspect in custody. And then it turned out it was just a person of interest who had been interviewed and released, and another person of interest interviewed and released. That made us look like a Coney Island clown car and could have had serious consequences. I understand the need to be transparent and get information out quickly, but John, that's the only mistake that I can see from this 30,000 foot macro level that I would have said you should have handled that differently.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you on that. I don't believe that there's a public's right to know on every aspect of this investigation. Some of these people you tip off. I mean, most of these people who know they're out there looking for you, they watch the news, they watch everything, and they watch every tip that comes out. So if they know you're onto them, they may go kill themselves, which I'd rather this guy be brought in alive than him killing himself and taking the coward's way out. So, I'm not all for, letting every piece of detail out. If you need help, you put out the pictures, which is clearly what they did. I guess the point I'm trying to make is if this guy's father didn't come forward and his family and the pastor who convinced him to turn himself in, how much longer would it have taken to get him? And I relate everything back, James, to January 6th, where I know there was FBI agents banging down people's doors the day after January 6th with no DNA, just video footage. So I try to relate everything back to that because the Democrats tell us that was the worst day in history. And, they were able to get people within hours of not even doing anything wrong for some of them.
Yeah, I agree with you, what you said at the top there, that, release of information, it's got to be targeted. It's got to be done intelligently. You want the public has a right to know, of course, in a free and open society like the United States of America. However, there are times for some of the very reasons that you mentioned that information and intelligence is held back and not released. But look, crowdsourcing is a thing, and the ability to put something out, whether it's a bolo or be on the lookout for, it is a thing. And in this instance, as you rightly referenced, the father, the clergy member that was a friend of the family, were able to identify the kid. He literally is a kid
Yeah.
and make the ID and get him and get him over to federal authorities. Now the hard part is putting together an airtight case, which I believe they'll have. The FBI director this morning on Fox and Friends stated that they have DNA on a towel that was wrapped around the weapon, and DNA from some other things that he might have touched that tie him to the crime and the crime scene, and obviously the weapon. But this is the hard work. And look, the death penalty may be on the table. You've got to get two juries of 12 people each to agree. So you've got to get a jury twice to agree to put him to death. And out in Utah, they don't play around. They still have the firing squad as the chosen method of execution.
Yeah, and it can't come soon enough. I'm just glad they got him alive. Before we wrap up, I want to get your take on something. It's a new story out today, and there's a new co-director of the, I guess you call him assistant director of the FBI with Dan Bongino. His name is Andrew Bailey. He's a former Missouri attorney general. He's been on this show many times. I've gotten to know him very well. A very, very good man by all accounts. A gentleman, just a very overall good guy. I can't sing his praise enough. But there's a new article out from Fox News today, and it's titled, quote, "Knives are out for embattled FBI Director Kash Patel despite Trump's support." Now, this article says, according to 10 sources from multiple federal offices, granted anonymity to speak, the White House reasoning to create an unprecedented office for Bailey has not been explained and left the FBI leadership confused, according to two people at the agency. Quote, "The White House, Bondi, and Blanche have no confidence in Kash." One source with knowledge said this on this condition of anonymity. Pam in particular cannot stand him, Blanche either. That's, of course, referring to Pam Bondi AG and Deputy AG Todd Blanche. Now, Bondi and Blanche denied the characterizations and said the White House officials denied any plans to remove Director Patel from his position. But it makes you wonder, why bring in... Now, Bailey has said in the past he wouldn't leave his job as Missouri AG because I think he wants to run for governor eventually. Why would he leave his job as AG to go over, take a deputy job at the FBI if there isn't a shakeup coming?
Yeah, and out of all the names that you mentioned, the only person that I know intimately is Todd Blanche. Todd was a chief in the criminal division in the Southern District in New York in the Department of Justice when I was an FBI supervisor overseeing violent street gang investigations, and Todd was the prosecutor. So I know him well. I've got great respect for him. Having said that, I have not spoken to him about this matter, so I can speculate and not get in trouble. So my feeling is this: when Director Patel was selected, a lot of people had misgivings about it, including FBI colleagues currently on board and retired, regarding experience and the fact that he had written a book and he had said some kooky things in the book, like the 7th floor of FBI headquarters should be turned into a museum to the deep state. And we get it. We get the wild hyperbole. And obviously he was playing to an audience of one in the president. But, the job is a serious and a sober undertaking. And I did look at Kash's background, the fact that he was a public defender for a number of years. He was a prosecutor, a line prosecutor in the Department of Justice. He had worked on the Hill for a while. He had some experience in certain areas, working with the DNI in the first Trump administration. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I've tried to maintain that. I'm remaining agnostic. Now with Dan Bongino, who's the deputy director, and that position is not a political position. It's never been somebody appointed from outside the bureau. This is a brick agent that works his way or her way up the ranks and serves in that position. It's kind of like, you've got at West Point, you've got a superintendent who's in charge of the academy, and then you've got a commandant that runs the cadets, the day-to-day life of the cadets. Well, that's what a deputy director does. So when they brought Kash in and Dan, I thought that was a mistake. Many of us did. But okay, we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. For them to bring in Andrew Bailey, who I agree with you, I don't know him personally. I know him by reputation. He's very well thought of in my circles. But for them to bring him in and make him a co-deputy director, that has never happened in the 117-year history of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, Sure. Does it make people think that, hey, it's just going to be a matter of time before there is, somebody gets dislodged from position and he slides in? Has Director Patel made some mistakes? Yeah. I'd like him to stay off of X or the old Twitter. I don't need to hear from him every day. Same thing with Dan Bongino. I don't need to hear from you every day. I understand the pendulum, and in former administrations, there was a lack of transparency. So now we've got to swing it all the way the other way. But John, I think that's a mistake. There could be changes coming in. Again, I don't know that for a fact. But I do hope that if there aren't changes coming, that they could kind of right this ship, because in this last investigation, the investigators did a great job, but the FBI director and the FBI administration, there could have been some things that were done differently to my satisfaction.
Yeah, there's certain things you give up, James, when you take a job like that, and it's pretty much your lifestyle, your social life, and it's you know it going into it. If you're to take that job, you're not going out to dinner every single night. You're not going to Broadway plays on the weekend. You're not going to hockey games and hanging out with Wayne Gretzky every weekend. There's certain things that you have to change about your lifestyle, not just because of the job that you have and that you're working 24/7, but because of the things that have to be put in place in order for you to do that. I was out to dinner in D.C. last time I was down there, and at a restaurant, a very nice restaurant, and in walks in Kash Patel and a few other people, John Ratcliffe, and they're sitting right behind us. And the whole thing is just, security here, out here, all in the government dime. I mean, I don't know how any other way to put it, but it's not a social job. It's not a job for you to go use. Everyone complained when Christopher Wray used his private jet to go fly to upstate New York every weekend to his house, but it's not a job that's a social experiment. It's a job that you're working 24 hours a day. Not to say that you can't go out and have dinner every now and then, but every night out to dinner, every night this, every night that. I think it's got probably a lot of people annoyed.
Yeah, I can see that. But I can also see it on the other end, too. People see the president golfing one weekend. It's like, oh, my gosh. I mean, he's the most important man in the entire world. And, how dare he go to his golf course and play golf? And for these guys, it is a stressful job. And I'm great. I'm not playing the world's smallest violin. Trust me, they're lucky to have those positions to be able to serve and do that. But it is a stressful job. The hours are long. It's not 9 to 5. It's not Monday through Friday. It's 7 days a week. It's 24/7 of your, I was going to say your pager going off, but we've obviously moved technology forward from that. But your cell phone's going off. I don't begrudge him that. Now, I know that Ratcliffe and Patel have a prior relationship that could be part of it too, but I also think that the FBI director's job, you are the hood ornament. You're kind of you're the face. You're doing close quarter battle, administrative close quarter battle up on Capitol Hill. You're fighting for our budget. You're arguing why our mission focuses on this. It's the deputy director that, again, which is why the only reason why I feel it was a mistake to bring Bongino in was it should be someone with intimate knowledge of the inner workings of the FBI, and then to make certain that the agents are aligned with the mission and that the job is getting done. Now, maybe these guys will round into the job, maybe they'll figure it out, or maybe not. But I agree with you. I've seen some of these articles and heard some of the whispers that it truly are the long knives are out, and maybe the only thing holding him in the position right now is his relationship with the president.
2 questions for you before we wrap. First, I'll go with this one, an easy one. Whose call was this to bring in Bailey, do you believe?
Gosh, I mean, again, do I know this? Do I know this because I have inside information?
Well, who would make that kind of call, I guess?
I feel like it would have to have come from DOJ. But again, I don't know that for a fact, but that would be my sense.
So Pam Bondi or Todd Blanche?
I would imagine, but again, that's me just reading the official tea leaves.
Interesting. Does Kash Patel weather this storm? Do we see him depart? Your opinion, with no prior knowledge, of course. Does he weather the storm, or does he eventually see himself out?
I'm not going to go out on too far of a limb here when I say this. I do not believe that Kash Patel will serve a full 10-year term.
Interesting. Well, I take your word for a lot. I mean, you've been in this business for a very long time, and we always appreciate your take on everything. I know the great Lou Dobbs always appreciated it. You were one of his favorite guys. Andrew Bailey, I guess I could say this now without Lou being mad at me, knowing everything that's going on. Andrew Bailey was Lou's pick for Attorney General, I believe, if he was alive. That may have possibly come true if he had the presidency here. You get the last word here, James. As always, a delight to talk to you.
John, appreciate you. Appreciate you having me on. I think you're doing a great job, and I did not know Mr. Dobbs the way that you do, certainly, but I truly enjoyed our conversations, and I think what you're doing by continuing his legacy is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful thing, and I appreciate it. And that's why I'll always join you when I have some information or something I feel like we should get out to the American public. I appreciate you giving me a platform to do that.
Anytime. And like I said, I think you deserve more than a minute on television, which is why we spent over a half hour here today giving you the floor, because people need to hear the full side of things, the full story on things, not just a 1 minute clip. And I think it's important for the American people. And as always, I appreciate you joining us. Folks, James Gagliano, retired supervisory special agent with the FBI, one of the good guys. James, come back soon, my friend.
Absolutely will, John. You take care.
Thanks to James Gagliano, folks, and thank you all for being with us today here on The Great America Show. We hope to see you back here tomorrow for The Great America Show, where our quest for truth, justice, and the American way continues. We'll meet you back here tomorrow, same time, same place. Until then, may God bless you, may God bless America, and may God bless the great Lou Dobbs. Have a great night, everybody.